Have you ever thought that when you call an Uber in Houston, your driver could be a rocket engineer? Dr. Zephyr Blackwood was exactly that. Zephyr's hands still had traces of rocket fuel on them, but now those hands were holding a steering wheel, one of NASA's brightest minds, until his life was turned upside down. Welcome to Stories of Black Lives. If you want to see more stories like this, please hit that subscribe button. And don't forget to like this video. It was Tuesday evening, in the heart of Houston. The city's skyscrapers were catching the last rays of the evening sun, and the hum of traffic was echoing in the streets like a never-ending song. Dr. Zephyr Blackwood was sitting behind the wheel, waiting for a new passenger request on his phone screen, gently tapping his fingers on the steering wheel. His white Toyota Camry was clean and smelled good, but the owner of this car was one of the chief engineers of Mars colonization projects just 6 months ago. Now he was driving Uber 10 hours a day, trying to make rent. Zephyr's eyes were tired but maintained their sharpness. He was tall, with a calm expression. His hair was short. He had a thin beard on his chin, and his hands still had chemical stains from those projects. Those special marks that remain on the hands of people who work with rocket fuel. Traces that don't completely disappear even when washed. His phone rang. A new customer. From Intercontinental Airport to Museum District, he read quietly. A 15-minute journey. Quite normal. Zephyr started the car, opened the GPS, and slowly merged into traffic. Houston streets were now familiar to him. When he worked at NASA, he had never known this city so closely. Back then, he would go directly from home to Johnson Space Center and return home in the evening. He didn't see the real face of the city. Now he knew every street. When he arrived at the airport, he immediately noticed the customer. Dr. Alessandra Vega, an astrophysicist from NASA's Planetary Sciences Division. Zephyr knew her. They had even worked on projects together. But Alessandra didn't know who he was. Her face was half covered with a mask. She was pulling a suitcase, phone at her ear. "Zephyr," she called out, approaching the door. "Yes, your Uber driver," said Zephyr calmly. There was no trace of familiarity in his voice. Alessandra sat in the back, put her suitcase next to her. "Museum District, please." "Houston Museum of Natural Sciences." "Sure." The journey began. The first 10 minutes passed in silence. Zephyr seemed focused on traffic, but actually his thoughts were elsewhere. Being next to Alessandra, feeling a piece of his old life again, felt strange. As if he had received a message from another universe. Alessandra hung up the phone and started looking out the window. The city lights had become even more beautiful in the evening darkness. After a while, she broke the silence. "Excuse me, I'm going to ask a very strange question, but what are those stains on your hands? They look like chemical stains." Zephyr paused at the steering wheel. An internal smile passed across his face. "Rocket fuel," he said quietly. "What? Rocket fuel?" "Hydrazine, monomethylhydrazine. These remain on your hands. Even if you clean them, the traces don't go away." Alessandra leaned forward, looked more carefully at the driver. "How do you know these things?" "Because I worked with these chemicals for many years." "Where?" Zephyr stopped at the traffic light, looked at Alessandra in the mirror. "NASA Johnson Space Center. I was designing propulsion systems for the Mars colonization project." Alessandra's mouth remained open. "Are you joking? I wish it were so. But you're doing Uber driving." "Yes, for the past 6 months." The silence became heavy. Alessandra wanted to ask more questions, but didn't know how to start. Zephyr also wanted to talk, but was fighting a pride battle inside. Finally, Alessandra couldn't stand it. "Which department were you in at NASA?" "Propulsion Systems, Advanced Concepts Division." "My God. Mars Transfer Vehicle Project." "Yes. I'm at NASA too, in the Astrophysics Division. I follow that project." Are you Dr. Blackwood?" Zephyr took a deep breath. "Former Dr. Blackwood. But you're a genius. Aren't you the person who designed the propulsion systems of rockets going to Mars?" "I used to be." Alessandra leaned back. She was in shock. "What happened to you?" Zephyr started speaking after a long silence. He seemed to be watching traffic, but was actually collecting his memories. "I had a prototype I'd been working on for 2 years. New generation ion propulsion system. The kind that could reduce the Mars journey from 6 months to 4 months. I had filed a patent application, was waiting for approval. One night, I stayed in the laboratory to do the final tests." He paused. "When I came in the morning, the prototype wasn't there." Design files had been deleted. My backup files had also disappeared. Security cameras were broken that night. Coincidence, of course. Did someone steal it? 3 weeks later, I learned that a rival company had patented exactly the same system as my design. Someone from inside NASA must have leaked it. But I had no proof. Did you file a complaint? I did. An investigation was opened. But that company had big contracts with NASA. They accused me of being paranoid. They said I couldn't handle project stress. Then they suggested I resign. Alessandra's facial expression had changed. This is terrible. There's more. When I refused to resign, they started digging into my past. I had received a drunk driving penalty once during university. They used this as an excuse, canceled my security clearance. You can't work at NASA without security clearance. So I was fired. Unofficially. No one can officially say they were fired, but the result is the same. The car arrived in front of the museum complex. But Alessandra wasn't getting out. Dr. Blackwood. Zephyr. This is a terrible injustice. Life is like that sometimes. No, it shouldn't be like this. You're a genius. Mars project is impossible without your designs. Zephyr looked out the car window. I wish it were that simple. Alessandra suddenly took out her phone. Can I talk to my director? With Dr. Harrison. Maybe. No, said Zephyr firmly. Please. I left this job. I have other plans. Uber driving? No. But not returning to NASA either. Alessandra opened the door, but turned around before getting out. Can I give you my card? Zephyr thought. Why? Because you're still a genius. And I can't pass by this injustice silently. That night, when Zephyr returned home, he put Alessandra's card on the table. It was a small apartment, a quarter the size of his office at NASA. His old photographs were still hanging on the walls. Rocket launch ceremonies, pictures taken with teammates, awards he had received. He knew he should take them all down, but couldn't do it somehow. As if they were the last evidence of his old identity. He opened the refrigerator. There was only a sandwich and some milk. When he was at NASA, he would eat at expensive restaurants every evening. Now he was shopping from the discounted aisle of the market. His phone rang. A new call from the Uber app. Now, he muttered. It was close to midnight, but he needed money. He accepted the call. The address was downtown Houston, in front of a skyscraper. Passenger. Desperate. Emergency. Please hurry, was written in the notes. Zephyr quickly got dressed, jumped in his car, and hit the road. Downtown traffic was more fluid at this hour, but there was a strange sense of urgency inside him. The customer's note had worried him. When he arrived in front of the skyscraper, a young man ran toward the car. He was in a suit, but disheveled. His phone was in his hand. He was sweating. Are you the Uber driver? He asked breathlessly. Yes. Where are we going? Hermann Hospital. To emergency. Please be fast. The man sat in the back, immediately continued his phone conversation. No, Mom. We haven't reached the hospital yet. Yes, I gave the doctors the exact address. Zephyr looked at him from the rearview mirror. The man was very tense. His hands were shaking. Family trouble? Asked Zephyr. My sister. Car accident. Doctors aren't saying anything clear, but... His voice broke. Zephyr pressed the gas a bit more. What's your name? Rafael. Rafael Vega. Zephyr. Don't worry, Rafael. We'll arrive on time. Thank you. Rafael's phone conversations continued on the road. Zephyr was trying not to listen, but some words reached his ears. Spinal cord injury. Surgery. Uncertain. His heart became heavy. He had some knowledge about injuries and accidents. He had taken safety training at NASA, had gotten first aid certification. When they arrived at the hospital, Rafael wanted to get out quickly, but while making his payment, some things fell from his wallet. Zephyr bent down and collected them. Among them was a NASA employee card. Is this yours? He asked. Rafael looked surprised. Yes, how? I was at NASA too. Really? Which department? Advanced Propulsion. Mars Transfer Vehicle Project. Rafael stopped. He even forgot his phone. Are you Dr. Blackwood? Zephyr's eyebrows furrowed. Do you know me? Of course. You're legendary. Your formula for increasing efficiency in ion propulsion systems is being talked about everywhere. My sister also works in this field, was working. Your sister? Alessandra Vega. In the astrophysics division. Zephyr's eyes grew wide. Is Alessandra your sister? Yes, do you know her? I drove Uber for her a few days ago. Rafael couldn't believe it. This isn't possible. What a small world. Let's go to the hospital first, said Zephyr. We have a lot to talk about. They found Alessandra at the hospital. She was sitting in the surgery waiting room, her eyes swollen, worried. When she saw Rafael, she stood up. Rafael. Finally, the siblings hugged. Then Alessandra noticed Zephyr. You, aren't you the Uber driver? Dr. Zephyr Blackwood. He introduced himself. I gave Rafael a ride to the hospital. This is incredible, said Alessandra. Rafael, this man is one of NASA's brightest rocket engineers. He was working on Mars projects. Was working, corrected Zephyr. Not anymore. Why? Asked Rafael. Zephyr told his story. As Alessandra listened, her face gradually became grim. Rafael was shaking his head with anger. This isn't justice, said Rafael. We should get you back. It's not that easy. The nurse came, called Alessandra. Her sister's condition was stable, but a long recovery process was expected. While they talked, Zephyr said he was waiting. He wanted to leave, but somehow couldn't separate himself. When Rafael returned, his eyes were teary. My sister will be okay, but there's damage in the spinal cord. Walking might take time. Get well soon, said Zephyr. Thank you. But why are you still here? You must have other customers. Zephyr stopped. He didn't know why he had stayed either. I'm not sure. Alessandra joined them. Rafael, did we ever talk with Dr. Blackwood? His story is incredible. A little bit. But Dr. Blackwood, I have a question. Ask. Can you still do engineering? What do you mean? Rafael opened his phone and showed something. They're using new technologies in my sister's treatment. Spinal cord stimulation. But the systems they use are very inefficient. Aren't you also an expert in these types of electrical systems? Zephyr looked at the screen. It seemed familiar. Electrical stimulation, yes. We were using it in rocket controls. But medical applications are different. Basic principles are the same, said Alessandra. Bioelectrical signals, frequency modulation, controlled stimulation. Zephyr nodded his head. True. Actually, in Mars projects, we had designed similar systems to prevent muscle atrophy of astronauts. Really? Yes. Microelectrical stimulation. Very effective. Rafael got excited. Can you do something for us? As consultancy. Zephyr thought. I don't know. Medical device design is a different field. But you know the principles, insisted Alessandra. And you can help our sister. That night, when Zephyr returned home, he couldn't sleep. Plans were taking shape in his brain. He was thinking about what could be done for Rafael's sister. How he could convert his knowledge in rocket technology to medical applications. He opened his old NASA notes on his desk. The electrical stimulation formulas he had written years ago were still there. He had also worked on neurological applications, he realized. Back then they were theoretical studies. They had no practical application. But now, the next day, he called Rafael. Can you come to the hospital? I want to see your sister. Rafael was surprised but pleased. Of course. When? Now. At the hospital, he saw Isabella Vega. She was a young, strong woman, but at the moment, she looked helpless. Zephyr approached her. Hello, Isabella. I'm Zephyr. Are you the engineer Rafael mentioned? Yes. I want to think about how we can help you. Can you really help? Zephyr showed his hands. These stains aren't just from rocket fuel. They're also from the hope of healing. For the next 3 weeks, Zephyr came to the hospital every day. He reduced his Uber work, used his savings. He examined Isabella's condition, talked with doctors, analyzed existing technologies, and developed a plan. Traditional spinal cord stimulation devices used single frequency, but Zephyr designed multi-frequency systems. He adapted the precision engineering he learned in rocket controls to medical devices. This is madness, said one of the doctors. It's never been tested. Mars rockets aren't sent to space without being tested either, said Zephyr. But we do simulations. Hospital management was skeptical, but Rafael and Alessandra supported. They told about Zephyr's background, his successes at NASA. Finally, they got trial permission. Building the prototype device took 2 weeks. Zephyr called some of his old friends, asked for help. Most hesitated at first, but then supported. Everyone who heard about the injustice at NASA wanted to help him. The day Isabella received her first treatment, Zephyr had started the device with trembling hands. Do you feel anything? Tingling. Light electrical sensation. This is normal. We're continuing. After the 3rd session, Isabella moved her toes. Light but real. Everyone in the room froze. Do it again, said the doctor unbelievingly. Isabella repeated. Then she lifted her leg slightly. Rafael started crying. Alessandra hugged Zephyr. You succeeded. But Zephyr was more cautious. This is just the beginning. The real work starts now. 2 months later, Isabella was walking. First with Walker, then with cane, then without any help. The story spread rapidly in the hospital. The device Zephyr designed was tested on 3 other patients too. It was successful in all of them. Local news channels heard the story. News titled, "Former NASA Engineer Saves Lives with Rocket Technology," was broadcast on national television. Zephyr's phone started ringing. Medical device companies, NASA, universities, even calls were coming. Zephyr's phone started ringing. Medical device companies, NASA, universities, even calls were coming from Pentagon. But the most important call came from Dr. Patricia Harrison, NASA Johnson Space Center's new director. Dr. Blackwood, I want to make you an offer. I'm listening. Come back. Mars Transfer Vehicle project stopped in your absence. We have new contracts, our budget increased. And frankly, losing you was a big mistake. Zephyr stayed silent. Also, Harrison continued. We canceled our contract with that company that stole the patent. We started FBI investigation. Justice will find its place. What kind of position are you offering? Senior Director of Advanced Propulsion. Your own team, your own laboratory, your own budget, and freedom to work on both space and medical technology projects. Zephyr took a deep breath. I need to think. Of course, but don't wait too long. Mars doesn't wait for us. That evening, Zephyr met with Alessandra and Rafael. They were sitting in a cafe. Isabella was also with them, now walking. What did you decide? Asked Alessandra. I'm thinking of going back, but I have conditions. What are they? I want to establish a medical technology division, using NASA's space technologies for medical problems on Earth. Isabella's device should just be the beginning. Rafael smiled. This is a great idea, but such a division never existed at NASA. You'll create it, said Isabella. You made me walk again. You'll create a new solution for NASA too. Zephyr smiled. You're right. The next day, he called Harrison. I accept the offer, but I have one condition. Tell me. We're establishing biomedical engineering division. It will focus on converting space technologies to medical applications. This will be my main project. Harrison paused. This never happened at NASA. Many things never happened until someone did them. Humanity's future in space is important, but its present on Earth is also important. Okay, do it. 3 months later, Zephyr returned to NASA, but this time it was different. He had his own division, his own team, his own mission. Their first project was to develop the spinal cord stimulation device they designed for Isabella. Within 6 months, they got patent. The device passed FDA approval. Hospitals started placing orders. A year later, Zephyr's team was working on artificial limbs, brain-computer interfaces, and organ regeneration systems using Mars technologies. NASA's Medical Technology Division was creating revolution in the industry. And in every success, Zephyr remembered that day. The day he sat behind Uber wheel and took Rafael to the hospital. Sometimes, he would say in team meetings, the biggest discoveries happen on the most unexpected journeys. 2 years later, Zephyr was on TED Talk stage. His talk titled, From Mars to Medicine, How Space Technology Can Heal Earth, was watched millions of times. At the end of his speech, he said this. The most important thing I learned while being an Uber driver was this. Every journey has a meaning. Every person you encounter can change your life. I was designing rockets, but my real mission was to make a young woman who had a traffic accident walk again. Sometimes you need to get lost so you can find your real path. The stage thundered with applause. After cameras closed, Rafael and Alessandra were waiting for him backstage. Isabella was also there, now completely healthy. I'm proud of you, said Isabella. You inspired me, said Zephyr. I just provided the tools. Rafael laughed. Do you mean the Uber car? Everyone laughed. Zephyr took out his old Uber driver card from his pocket. I'm keeping this. As a reminder. Reminder of what? That no job is small. That no person is insignificant. And that sometimes the biggest opportunities come at the most unexpected moments. Alessandra nodded. And that the most important discoveries don't happen in laboratories, but inside life. That evening when Zephyr returned home, He looked at the old NASA photographs on the wall. Now there were new photographs too, from successful treatments at the hospital, current pictures taken with teammates, patent documents. But the most valuable photograph was the one taken with Rafael, Alessandra, and Isabella in the hospital garden. Isabella was walking, everyone was laughing. Under that photograph, he had written a small note. Sometimes taking the wrong path is the only way to reach the right destination. 5 years later, the Medical Space Technologies division that Zephyr established had become one of NASA's most successful departments. Isabella was now working as a physical therapist, using Zephyr's devices on other patients. Rafael had become security director at NASA. Alessandra continued working on Mars mission planning team. And Zephyr? He was still driving Uber occasionally. Not with his real name, just to meet people. Because he had learned that the biggest discoveries are born from the most unexpected encounters. One evening, he picked up a passenger from downtown. A middle-aged woman, very quiet. They didn't talk at all on the road, but when the woman got off, she said this. "You're a very different Uber driver." "How so?" "You have chemical stains on your hands. There's science in your conversation, and in your eyes. In your eyes, there's dreaming. You can't see these three together in most drivers." Zephyr smiled. Maybe most drivers are actually something else. The woman got off, but before closing the door, she turned around. Then everyone must be working in the wrong job. That night at home, Zephyr thought about these words. Maybe not everyone was in the wrong place. Maybe he had found himself in the right place. When he returned to NASA, he wasn't just designing rockets anymore. He was creating technologies that changed people's lives. And he had discovered this thanks to an Uber driving experience. He looked at the old Uber card standing on his desk. Zephyr B. was still written on it. He framed that card and hung it on his office wall. New employees constantly asked about the story of this card. "This," Zephyr would say, "is my most valuable diploma. It taught me that no experience in life goes to waste." One day, a young engineer asked, "Dr. Blackwood, did you ever regret it?" "Doing Uber driving." Zephyr looked at Houston's skyline from the window. "Never. Those 6 months were the most valuable time of my life." "Why?" "Because then I met real people. I saw real problems. And most importantly, I understood that technology can be used not just to explore space, but also to heal people." That young engineer adopted Zephyr's approach in his next project. Technology should be for humanity, not humanity for technology. Zephyr's story had become legend at NASA. New employees heard this story at orientation. Under the title, Uber Driver to Division Director, How Failure Became Success. But Zephyr's favorite moments were still simple. The minutes when he met with Isabella during her doctor visits, the phones where Rafael shared happy news about his sister, the coffee breaks where Alessandra told about her new discoveries. One night, while working late until late hours with his old habit, his office door was knocked. Rafael, who was the security guard, came. "Are you still here?" "I'm doing final checks. Tomorrow we start trial with new patient group." Rafael came inside. "There's news from Isabella. She's walking completely now. She's even started running." Zephyr smiled. "This is great news. And she said she wants to thank you. But words aren't enough. Tell her, her smile is enough." Rafael looked at the projects on the table. "You're giving hope to so many people. Don't you ever stop?" "I can't stop. Because every new patient is a new Rafael for me. Every person who heals is a new Uber journey for me." "What do you mean?" "Rafael, if you hadn't gotten in my car that night, I would have stayed just as an Uber driver. If your sister hadn't gotten sick, I wouldn't have searched for a solution for her. Sometimes the worst moments become the beginning of the best changes." Rafael thought. So Isabella's accident was actually a chance. No, the accident was terrible. But the results. The results healed both her and me and thousands of other people. That night, as Rafael went home, he was thinking about this conversation. He would tell this anecdote to his sister. Isabella was also telling her story to other patients. She was giving them hope. And so an Uber journey changed the lives of not just Zephyr, but hundreds of people. In Zephyr's office, that old photograph still stood. A selfie taken the first day when he took Rafael to the hospital. Rafael tense, Zephyr tired, but both not knowing that everything was changing at that moment. The note under the photograph said this: "Sometimes getting lost is the only way to be found." And every morning when Zephyr came to work, He would look at that note, smile, and remind himself this. The biggest discoveries don't always happen in laboratories. Sometimes they can happen in the front seat of an Uber car too. When anyone asked him about the rocket fuel stains on his hands anymore, he wouldn't get sad. Because those stains weren't just traces of the past. They were also signs of future hope.